About 4 or 5, 6 years ago, I finished a video on the Search for Knowledge series, and I said I was going to continue on with an episode on evil. And, it's taken me a long time to continue with another episode. I had some kids, I've been busy with work, and some things came up, but over that time, I had been contemplating on what I wanted to do about that video. And I turned it into something else, which is justice. And I believe that justice and evil are two sides of a very similar, if not same coin. If evil, such as you see it, or would define it for yourself, exists, it would imply that there is a wrong that needs to be righted. But I do mean justice in a very, I'm going to start off with a very plain definition. For example, if a person were to get murdered, there's a lot of societies that say, hey, justice is we take away your freedom permanently, or you would receive the death penalty. That would make the proper adjustment to make sure that what was right or the wrong is now righted. But I also mean it as if we look at it from the root word of what justice means, to make an adjustment, to literally add justice. You might have a rib that is out of place, and to make the adjustment, let's say you go to the chiropractor, you push the rib back into place, the pain is relieved, literally your freedom was being impinged or infringed upon, and now you have that freedom back. Because I should have started off with this. To me, my definition of what evil is, for the most part, it is the infringement upon somebody else's freedom. The most egregious infringement that I think historically most societies believe in is the act of murder, because then that person has no more freedom at all anymore. But it does go down the line of, if you were to rape, that we hold that in a very high level of being an egregious offense, and you're definitely violating the freedom of somebody else. But any infringement upon freedom, however big or small, would be an act of evil to me. I hold the philosophy that as long as you are not doing any harm to somebody else, as long as you're minding your own business, you have done nothing wrong. That's the long and short of it. And so justice is only necessary when it comes between interpersonal relationships, when freedom has been violated. If you have not violated anybody's freedom, don't apologize. You haven't done anything wrong. Now, you could make the argument that, let's say, the rib that is out of place, that needs to be put back into place, you could make the argument that is this evil? Is it not evil? Well, your freedom is being impinged, but it's not from another person. You could just say it's just a random act of, chance. It's just natural law taking place. Or it could be something that you did to yourself. So when it comes to giving yourself patience, tempering yourself, making sure that you act more prudently, you're not necessarily punishing yourself, but you are making adjustments to your behavior because of injustices that you may have even committed to yourself. So there is a philosophy that I hold that freedom is of the highest value to me. And the reason I hold that value is because I believe, amongst other things, I believe all virtue comes from freedom. Freedom is the birthing ground of all virtue. For example, you choose to be honest or not. You choose to have integrity or not. You choose to act prudently or not. You choose to seek justice or not. In fact, I go to the extreme to say that out of all the things that you can and cannot control, and some things you have influence over, virtue is the only things you have entire control over. So only you get to say whether or not you're going to be honest. There's nothing else. So I might be able to, for example, have influence over my health. I might go to the gym, I might eat well, but my heart could stop tomorrow. So I have influence over my health, but not total control over my health. And there are many things that I have absolutely no control over, like the stars in the sky and the trajectories that they are on. So when we look at what we're doing with our lives, it stands to reason that we should evaluate virtue with a very heavy focus, because if it's true that virtue is the only thing that you have complete control over it would make sense that you would want to make sure that you are acting virtuously as effectively as possible, because that's it. That's all you've really got in life is your virtue. So when we say we judge somebody by their character, that's what we mean. We're saying that we judge them by their virtues that they embody and act out in their lives. Now, there are many virtues. There's a long list here, but there's some of the main ones. This was back in the olden days. Justice, temperance, prudence, and courage were the four main ones. But there are many: humility, kindness, honesty, wisdom, patience, hope and faith, charity, respect, responsibility, assertiveness, cleanliness, courage, sincerity, moderation, modesty, frugality, and wisdom. There might be more, but that's the list. So these are the things that you have complete control over. Now, out of all of these virtues, I'm going to make an argument that justice is a very special one. So if freedom is the alpha, I say that justice is the omega. Justice is what is used to protect freedom, ultimately. It is the closure of a cycle. Our entire society is based on this concept. It's bigger, it's deeper than our society. If you look at how stories are written, if you look at like a Sherlock Holmes novel, a crime is committed, somebody is murdered. The facts and evidence are gathered, the perpetrators are identified, and justice is executed upon the perpetrators, and the story is over. You are in pain, you have that cracked rib, you put it back into place, the pain is over, the story is over. So there's all of these cycles where freedom gets infringed upon, because that's where it starts. All is going well, all is flowing well, the conflict arises, and then justice is what takes us back home. It's what honors and protects freedom and restores it. And although somebody who has lost their life can never get it back, at least you're sending a signal to the rest of your society by exacting justice that you're not going to get off scot-free. There is a cost to infringing upon the freedom of another. So within justice, there's something very important. It compels you to seek truth, because how are you going to achieve justice if you don't know anything. So let's say there's somebody on the street, they're asking for money. Now, there are people who are legitimately in need, and generosity is due, you could say. If a tornado went through your town tomorrow and it wiped out your neighbor's house, I'm probably going to go over there, this is me, and help them out. It could have been me. I just got lucky. I'm trying to achieve justice, but I'm doing it through one of my virtues, generosity, charity. And I know they're in need. I don't need to do an investigation. I don't need any evidence. They just lost their house. But what if somebody is saying they need something from you, but they actually are not in need? They're actually applying a parasitical attack upon you. There's this idea that, you should just be charitable. You should just donate your money to charity foundations. Just close your eyes, hope for the best. And yet, is it not true that charities have been exposed over the years? And some are just outright not giving the money to what you think they're giving it to. And the fine print, they're saying, sorry, 95% of this is going to us. Maybe 5% is going to the cause. You might as well flown over to whoever you're trying to help and directly give them more money, because you'd be helping the person who is actually in need more by making sure you knew what you were doing with your money. You see, it's not good enough to be virtuous without knowledge. How do you identify the murderer without any evidence? Or worse, imagine accusing somebody of murder when they haven't done anything at all. And that's happened before. People have gone to prison over false accusations. And, later they might be exonerated by DNA evidence decades later after they've lost all of this time. But it just goes to show, you might think that you're executing justice. My point is if you've completely disregarded the truth, then you'll never reach justice. So justice is staring you in the face, compelling you. Seek the truth. So no longer are you seeking truth out of curiosity, although that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think this is where we need to reorient. Imagine a society that reorients itself, where now we seek the truth to serve justice, which is ultimately serving freedom. It all ties back. Freedom turns to knowledge, turns to justice. The feedback loop is maintained. So if somebody's asking me for help on the street, what they're doing is they're trying to take advantage. Let's say they're acting not in good faith, and they're acting parasitically. They're trying to take advantage of my generosity, of my charity. This could be true for any of my virtues. There might be people acting in bad faith. They take advantage of your patience. If I right now have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, I know they need my patience. I don't need to do an investigation. They have emotional outbursts. They're not able to regulate their own emotions yet. They need my patience. So I'm creating a more just environment by giving them that patience. But if somebody is acting in bad faith, they're lying to me, they might be trying to gaslight me, trying to emotionally manipulate me, and I'm giving them the time of day, I've done an injustice unto myself. Because what this is doing, the whole idea of justice, is saying sharpen your mind, strengthen your psychic immunity, your emotional intelligence, and your mental acuity. Learn, and this is out of the scope of this video, but we've already covered what knowledge is. But epistemologically, how do we attain truth? How does the detective function? I was going to the dentist. This is a true story. And I have been brushing and flossing regularly. I had received my x-rays, half a year ago. I show up for a regular cleaning, and I did not get an x-ray this time. But the dentist told me that I had multiple cavities. She didn't look me in the eye. She didn't explain where the cavities were. And she told me to come in as soon as I could to get the cavities taken care of. And I found all of this behavior very suspicious. Now, the dentist knows best, right? Well, I'm not a dentist, and I'm not claiming that I know more than the dentist. I certainly don't. But I found this activity suspicious, so I sought out a second opinion. Went to another dentist, didn't say anything to them, just let them objectively make their own conclusions about my dental health. They did their own x-rays, they did their own cleaning. Said, Mr. Rowe, you have a clean bill of health. Come back in the next 6 months for your next cleaning. Okay. I reported this dentist to the dental board. And I'm not allowed to know the details. This happened years ago. But I could tell they shut down operations for a couple years at least. So if that dentist was willing to do that to me, was she doing it to other people? Well, in my own little way, I achieved justice. And hopefully she thinks twice before pushing that on somebody, because she'll probably be barred from practicing ever again. And what did I do? I had evidence. I had x-rays from one dentist, x-rays from her. The dental board was able to compare the two and arrive at a conclusion. So you can't just sit there and say, I accuse them of fraud. Now, suspicious of fraud, but the suspicion is the impetus for the investigation. And the investigation is work. There's no denying that. So, justice also compels us, in another way, to seek money, power, health. How can we fight these battles if we have no time, no health, no power, no money? Now, you can get money, you can get power for all sorts of different reasons. But imagine realigning your motivations and your drives with justice, which would be a true celebration of freedom. Well, in my opinion, that would be the way to go. That would, I believe that if society reoriented these motivations in the way that I'm prescribing, that you would have a much more, I would say, fruitful life. So, evil, there's this funny thing that happens with evil. Because it knows that if it commits an act where it's taking advantage of you, parasitically or tyrannically. By tyrannically, I mean it actually infringes upon your freedom. It understands that, if you don't get the evidence, I get away with this. Because your allegation is not necessarily good enough. So, if somebody gets accused of rape, did they? Maybe. Maybe not. We don't know. It's one of the most difficult areas to find evidence on. So evil stands in this position where even if it gets caught, the victim, by exacting their justice upon the evil, looked at in a vacuum. Let's say somebody was about to be killed, and you protect yourself by killing them first. You defended yourself. And a bystander only sees the victim killing the perpetrator. Couldn't the bystander now look at that victim as the perpetrator? It's a funny thing, justice. Justice, if being executed on another person, can appear as though it is evil. That's why I said they're two sides of the same coin. So there's this exceptional responsibility that justice places upon us. It wants us to be prepared. It wants us to be strong and healthy. And it wants us to have the evidence. It doesn't matter if you know what happened to you. Well, it does matter. But in terms of completely closing the cycle on justice, you need to be able to present the evidence to the public, or they might come after you. So it's understandable why people just throw their arms up in the air and don't care about this entire process. Why go through the effort? And, there's been plenty of times I've seen acts of evil get away scot-free. There's been times where I've seen people who have lied. I know that they lied by virtue of the fact that I was privy to certain information. And, other people believe it. This happens all the time. On the macro scale, the micro scale, small town corruption, to the highest level of corruption, this is happening. What's the percentage of murder cases that get solved in Chicago? It's not above 50%. So crimes, evil does get away with a lot. So I thought to myself, I want to change my life. I want to be the change that I want to see. And I want to reorient my energies and my priorities so that I'm always seeking justice. So I am accumulating the wealth to fight the fight. I'm accumulating the energy, the time to fight the fight, to make a more just world. And I think that's why we're here. I think that we've been endowed with freedom, and it doesn't just stop there. We enjoy the benefits of freedom, like a child and playing in a playground. But then eventually we need to grow up and we learn that there are other things that we're supposed to be doing with this freedom. The virtues is one of them. And to meditate on these virtues and understand them. How can we improve? I'm not perfect, but I know what my values are, and I aspire to be a prudent person, a wise person, a person who seeks justice. Years ago, I might have even said, hey, let it slide. And I'm realizing now, no, that's not right. That's not right for my children. It's not right for me. It's not right for my community. In fact, I've done wrong before. Not to get into the details, but who hasn't? I've done wrong before, and justice has been executed on me. I'm grateful that it happened. Because how long could it have gone with me being dead to my own conscience? Shame on me. And I hope that I'm sensitive to what is right and what is just and what my conscience tries to tell me. It's very important to me. And so I know it's been years, but this is putting a close to a cycle on the Search for Knowledge series of why do we even search knowledge? Why are we even here? And maybe we get some mysteries unlocked if we embrace justice as I believe we are meant to. Maybe we open up a new chapter to the book called Human Being. Maybe, maybe not, but time will tell. Okay, that's all.